everyone. My name is Matt Jacobson. I'm the Online Learning Coordinator for the Learning Technology Center of Illinois. I'd like to remind everyone that all of our webinars are recorded, including this one. Reminder that all of our recordings are posted to our YouTube channel within 24 to 48 hours of the end of this broadcast. Illinois PD credit is also available for those attending live during the broadcast. Evaluations will be emailed to our live participants within 24 to 48 hours as well. If you have any questions today, please feel free to use the Q&A or the chat buttons down at the bottom of your screen. If you use the chat, please click that little blue drop-down menu and change it so it reads everyone, so that we can all read your questions and benefit from the responses. Today we are joined by Jen Leban, who is one of the education technology coaches for the Learning Technology Center of Illinois. And we are joined by Jen from somewhere where she's very familiar with being, because our coaches tend to travel quite a bit. Jen is joining us from the South Cook County region, from her car in a school parking lot today. Jen, go ahead and take it away.
All right. So, hello. I am coming to you from the parking lot of the elementary school that I'm at today. It's because I don't actually have like an office space at this particular building. So I sit in the teacher's lounge, and there's a club in there after school. So I messaged Matt and I said, hey, I'm going to come to you from the car, but it will still be great. Don't worry. So yeah, I travel in between 3 different districts, and I think it's 7 schools in South Cook County. So I'm used to just kind of that traveling life. My office is a big giant rolly toolbox. But I started my career as an art teacher. So that's my origin story, is that I am an art teacher. So today I am here to talk all about ways that tech can support the arts and ways that you can use technology in the art room. There is I encounter a wide range of art teachers. There's a whole spectrum. There's art teachers that love and embrace all things tech. There are some that are, tech haters that are like, nope, if it's not pen and pencil, and paint and clay, then it's no good. And then of course there's everything in between. There's teachers that want to do it and just don't know how, all of the above. Now, I love tech. My philosophy as an art teacher was that if I can get students to love art and find their niche within the art world. So maybe they're not very confident in their drawing and painting skills, but they're an amazing ceramicist, or their eye for composition and photography is amazing, or they work really well in like fiber art, and sculpture, or just conceptual art, the big ideas, performance art, blah, blah, blah. We could do that all day. If I can just get them hooked and find their area of the arts, we can work on the developmental stuff later. So for me, bringing tech into art and having that be a tool that some students really kind of like roll with and thrive within, I'm all for it. And in my own art preferred mediums, I'm a drawing and painting major, but I currently work on an iPad. I do most of my drawings digitally with an iPad and an Apple Pencil. So it's a very traditional drawing, but in a tech platform. So it's kind of cool to just learn how those things can combine, and especially in education nowadays. I mean, on your teacher evaluation, one of the things that a lot of times is there is, how are you integrating tech and how are you using technology in the classroom? And for some art teachers, if you've been around a bit, you're like, I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. So I have some things today that I kind of wanted to go through and talk about. I've divided it into like 4 sections here, and we can kind of go through those. Matt, does this sound good? We're working for it. Do you want me to just keep talking?
You sound great. The audio and video look great, sound great. So rock on.
Okay, cool. I don't mind. I'll just be, it's always weird to be like a talking head, especially when I'm sitting in my car and I look kind of crazy and people keep walking by me and I'm like, hey, yeah. Um, so the first thing that I wanted to discuss was I wanted to talk about using technology as a means of creating find your words, a way of reflecting on your artwork, because it is an essential process. We do the art making and the experience of the art, but processing your artwork and reflecting on it is really what often takes art as a curricular subject to that next level and that next DOK and depth of knowledge, and being able to reflect on it is huge. Score big points with your admin. So I like to use tech for that piece and for creating portfolios so that students can look back and see, well, what did we do in art class? How have I grown over time? How can I reflect on it and see what was I successful on? What was I not so successful on? But what did I learn from it? What's my intention behind my artwork? What am I trying to visually communicate? All of those things. There's a number of tools you can use. My first tool, some of these things will not be new to art teachers. Some of them will be. So I'm going to go through all of these things. Forgive me if you're watching and you're like, I know this already, but Artsonia was my favorite website as an art teacher for creating portfolios for students. Artsonia is a free service. Thanks, Matt. He's pulling up here. Artsonia is a free service for schools. The way they make their money is that they sell t-shirts and buttons and magnets and things with the student artwork on it, and they give a portion of it back to the school. So that's how they run, and that's how they're free. You don't have to sell anything. Parents don't have to buy it. You can still use the service for free. It will catalog a student's work over the course of their career in school. So across years, each student has a like a screen name, and parents can have access to that student's account, and you can look and see, well, here's something they did in kindergarten. Here's their artwork they did in first grade and in second grade. And then within each year with by like project. So as a teacher, I loved Artsonia because I would photograph all the student work, put it up online. I was teaching middle school. So in middle school, a lot of times the artwork doesn't make it home. So it was a good way of documenting, like, yes, your kid really did something, even though it's in the black hole that is their locker, or it didn't even make it home, because middle school is a weird developmental time where kids get weird about their artwork, and I'm a bad artist. They start to label themselves, bad or good or whatever. It's neat because it's all there digitally, it's preserved. I love that students can write an artist statement to go with their artwork, and those will go together up on the site. So that puts that reflective component in there for you to see as a teacher, for parents to read about, for other classmates to see. There you go. You can kind of see some of the stuff that's up there. As a mom, I have a fourth grader. I love Artsonia because I can see the work that he's done. I can see his work over time. I can take that link. I can share it with other family members. I also have had access to like my niece's Artsonia account. So it's just really cute because it's in the era of, social media and sharing. It's an easy way to kind of share out, things your kids are doing, connect with family that are not physically close. They can be involved and see what goes on. And then of course, like for me, a big one was around the holidays. I would have a lot of parents that were buying cards with their kids' artwork on it. It was neat for me because 20% then came back to the school, and I could use it on, art supplies and things for the art classroom. So it was just kind of like bonus. So in exchange for me doing the work, there was that. So if your school district hasn't gotten into Artsonia, I feel like it's really worth the effort to check it out. And then you can also like across, sorry, I'm losing my words, but if you work at elementary and then the students graduate up to middle school and you're in the same district, you can give the same account to that next teacher, and it can move up with them. And if a student has an Artsonia account from a previous school and they transfer into your school, you can take that account and you can merge it into the new account. So that's what's really nice, is that it can really follow the students across grade levels and over time and in different places. And I love that just because of how it archives everything. So that's a way that student art, portfolios are created automatically. Now, you can manually create portfolios as well. So it just kind of depends on, your situation. What level do you teach? How much time do you have? How comfortable are you with the tech? Artsonia is a good basic I think K through 8, it's used a lot. You can use it at high school level too, but sometimes, you know, when kids get older, you'd rather use something more like having them create a website of their own, creating a portfolio site of their own, or some kind of file or documentation where they're taking more ownership of it. So in that case, I would recommend something like Google Sites, where students can create their own portfolio website. This is something I used to do with my 8th grade students. Oh, nice. So your Google site. Matt's pulling up the LTC staff Google site. Yeah. I do have a whole, everything I'm talking about, because I know I'm talking from my car, everything that I'm saying today, we are putting into a doc that we will share when this is posted on the broadcast is put on YouTube. We'll make sure that we, in the comments and everything, that we put a link out to all of these tools I'm talking about today. So Google Sites or even Google Slides would be a great way to create a portfolio for your students. So I used to do this in 8th grade where I would have students create websites. So that in itself, creating a website, very, you know, design, art, visual communication oriented, but they can then make it functional by posting a picture of their artwork with a text box that has the reflection or what they, you know, they have to explain in their own words the objectives of the assignment. They can talk about what was successful and what wasn't. They could talk about what was, you know, why did they make the choices that they made in their artwork. So I actually did this particular project with my 8th graders. They had to create a portfolio website in Google Sites, and they had to post, we did like a pixel animated GIF. So they had to put that on the website and then explain the process they went through. We did a project where the students made a video. So they had to embed the video and they had to talk about, you know, what the story of their video was. So what was really neat about a site was that it did allow for that multimedia part, as opposed to Artsonia, which is a lot of like still images. Hey, there's me. You're putting me in the website. So you could say, I am a photographer and here's the portrait of Jen that I took and she's making a silly face. You know, you would put that stuff on there. And then the cool thing is that when you make a website within your school network, you can set the privacy to just be within that school network. So making a website doesn't need to be a public, like anyone anywhere on the internet can see it. You can have it so that it's like anyone in our district can view. It's a great way to provide that kind of authentic experience of designing a website while keeping students safe and kind of within that, what would they call it, like a walled garden of, you know, of safety. So portfolios and reflection would be a great way to start with tech in the art room, having them, you know, type up reflections, even if it's just as simple as typing up a reflection, printing it out and like sticking it underneath the artwork when you do a physical display or some bulletin boards. But you can certainly make it more digital through things like creating websites, creating Google, you know, a slide deck with a different slide for each artwork, or creating that portfolio website that could travel with them over the years, you know, within the same school district. The other thing I did want to talk about with Google Slides is that I do have a couple of websites that are pretty fun for, I don't know, jazzing up your slides. So slidesmania.com is a really cool site. The other one I think is called Slides Go. I particularly like Slidesmania. So if you, I know I see Matt's typing that in there. So Slidesmania has a template that's called the Doodle template, I believe is what it's called. Yeah. Now, of course, you can search this for anything. Oh, there it is, the third one. Yeah, that's mine. I drew that. So I always show this one off when I go to Slidesmania. So Paula, the woman behind, the genius behind Slidesmania, she creates all these different templates and things that you can use for different purposes, interactive presentations and stuff. This particular one's kind of neat because it has my drawings in it. So I always like to kind of show that off. So you can certainly create like a template or a starting point using one of these slide decks for your students to kind of give them some, I don't know, some inspiration or something to start with. So just fun to share. Matt, anything else on portfolios or reflection?
Let me check the chat and the Q&A. I don't really see any questions from the audience right now. So
That means
I think we're good to go.
That means we're doing an amazing job. So,
No worries.
all right.
Team effort.
So, yeah. So Google Slides, since we're talking about slides, I'm going to continue talking about slides, this time in terms of like graphic design and graphic design tools. So when people think of art and tech, one of the first things you think of is, like, well, graphic design and designing things. I don't think people realize how powerful Google Draw and Google Slides, how powerful they are for creating art. So one of the things you can do is you can have students, design their own slides templates, and they can design graphics using Google Slides. So I want to back up and explain something here. So Google Draw is basically a one slide Google slide. It exists, yeah, when you go to new and then you go down to more. Google Drawings is a thing, but Google Draw and Google Slides, they're really the same thing. It's just that Google Slides, you can just have multiples, and Google Draw, it's just the one. Okay, I'm going to tell you something, and if you knew this, forgive me, but in Google Slides, you can make a transparent background. I did not know this. And when I found this out, it was kind of like a mind-blowing moment. So when you're in Google Slides and you go to fix your background, you can actually, you choose the color. Sorry, I see you clicking around here, Matt. Yeah, and you change the color. There is, look at that, transparent. What? Now it doesn't look like anything, it looks white, but it is transparent because I have then downloaded my slide as a PNG. It totally works. I know, go figure. I do that actually when I do designs with the Cricut. One of my schools has a Cricut machine, the cutter machines. So we will use Google Slides to lay out our designs. We use it as a graphic design tool to do what we want to do on the Cricut. We'll download our designs as PNG, and then we bring them into the Cricut I bring it into the Cricut software, and we'll print from there. So just kind of a fun thing you can do with that. I do have a couple of Google Slides graphic design assignments. I linked them in our notes, Matt. One is using Google Drawing to do Lego inspired minifigs, so like little portraits. So that's a pretty, one of the STEM teacher at my school here today was actually doing it. So pretty fun. And then the other one is I have a self-portrait using Google Slides. So it kind of like levels up. So creating your Lego portrait in Google Slides is great because it uses existing shapes and layering to combine to make new shapes. And that's pretty fun, a good like kind of beginner experience. And then I have another assignment that uses Google Slides or Google Draw. Hey, that's my blog. There we go. Minifig using Google Draw tools. And then the other one is actually doing portraits where you use the Google Draw tools. There's a tool called the curve tool. So you create more like organic kind of abstract shapes and you layer those together and you're able to make more, they almost look like Illustrator vectory, drawings there. So that's something you can do in Google Draw or Google Slides. Equally, I think a lot of people don't realize how powerful they are. So you don't need to own fancy software in order to do graphics and graphic design. You can do a lot just with like free Google Slides. Now, there are other outside tools you can use. There's a couple I recommend. One is Canva, which Matt, I noticed you use for your, why can't I find my words today? The webinar slide, yes, just like that. You're using Canva. So Canva is pretty fun. It does have a free for educators classroom setup where you can invite students into your class. There's the free version for education. It's one of those freemium tools where like when you want to start using, the fancier graphics and the other feature, like that's when they start charging you for stuff. But as just a basic tool, and there's a lot there that is free. This is a good tool for layouts because there's a lot of kind of pre-programmed, pre-designed like templates that are laid out for you, but you can also start from scratch. And if you're an art teacher, that might be the route that you want to take because, art teacher philosophy, just using a pre-existing template, where's the art in that? What did you do? So I think that in creating your own templates, in creating your own, graphic designs, your own posters, your own cards, you see that there's all those pre-done sizes, pre-done templates that you can use. That's helpful, but I think going in and talking about things like color theories and elements of art and elements of design and how do you combine fonts together and what colors look good together, and don't put 12 GIFs on one presentation. Oh, I don't know if you've ever seen there's an assignment or a project that's called worst prezzo ever, I think is what it's called. And basically it teaches students good design by having them create like the worst design. So it's kind of a fun way to teach it, because it's like, well, what would be a bad idea to do in a slide? Like what doesn't look good with fonts? So by having them like purposely make mistakes, that kind of takes the pressure off, but also forces students to articulate what does work by showing what doesn't. Does that make sense? Matt, does that make sense to you?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
And I actually found, well, I found here we go. Let's see, this is a slide share, but there you go. I'm sure art teachers everywhere are just going nuts by looking at that image.
I don't see it, Matt.
Sorry. There we go.
There you go. Yay.
Oh my goodness.
So that's kind of fun, because like you can tell students what works and what doesn't work, but having them do it themselves and tell you is kind of an interesting way to structure it, like kind of backwards it. Because I think a lot of times they know, like they've been in other teachers' classes, like we know as staff members, we've been in district office presentations where they have slides with like a zillion tiny fonts, you know. I'm in the back of the room going, that's awful. Yeah, and they read off the slides. We know all that. So sometimes having the students, you know, on their own, what doesn't work, you know, sometimes it's just kind of a cool way to structure your project. So, the last graphic design tool I want to talk about is Adobe Creative Cloud Express. In my experience, I don't see a lot of schools using it, and it's kind of a shame because this is another tool that's actually free. You just have to do the back end work of getting it, you know, like approved by your tech department, getting it synced with, you know, maybe your Google single sign-on or whatever. But once you get it in your, you know, district, get that all set up, Creative Cloud Express does so much. It's very similar. It reminds me of Canva. So if you use Canva, this might not be for you. If you use Creative Cloud Express, you might not want Canva. So it's kind of like they're pretty similar. I don't know that I see a reason to have both, but pick one and go with that. So if you're a school that already uses like some Adobe tools and stuff, this might be a good way to go. Now, what I love about Adobe Creative Cloud Express is that it's the free version. If you are trying to introduce students to Adobe tools with the idea that when they get older, maybe like they go into the high school, they're going to use like full versions of Adobe, this might be a good way to kind of intro that to them. If you're a district that uses that, it's a good way to kind of scaffold and level that up. The other thing that's pretty neat about Adobe Creative Cloud Express is that they do post these design challenges every month. I know you can find them on Twitter. If you search Adobe Creative Cloud Express, it'll come up. So like the challenge for April, the current challenge is a graphic that's called More Than a Score. And they give you the template and basically you like customize it and make it your own way. So you would use like a photo of yourself, and then in words, there's a circle around it. And you would be like, you know, I am, you know, not, you know, I'm more than a score. I am creative. I am an artist. I am empathetic. I am a problem solver. You know, so it has students kind of define themselves in these other ways, which is interesting because it's totally testing season. So the idea is that, you know, students just don't have to be so immersed in. So it'd be fun in an art class to do this as a supplement to, you know, they're in tests all days. So kind of interesting. Every month they come out with a new challenge. There was a month where they created posters. There was a month where there was logos. You create a personal logo. So that's kind of fun because they give you a monthly thing that you can do. So if you're like, my brain is just out of ideas, let Adobe help you. So you could even take those ideas and use them in something else. You don't have the template, but you could do the same type of challenge only using your Canva, or you could create a template and do something like that in Slides or Google Drive. So those are my free graphic design tools. If you are a higher level, meaning like high school, like higher grade levels, you probably have more advanced tools for design and things like this. But this is a great way to start introducing design at elementary, probably through middle school. Yeah, I don't know if I mentioned, but I come from the art world, but I actually come from middle school art. I taught 6, 7, and 8. I did spend some time at the elementary level. I wasn't teaching art. I was in the library, but I have taught K through 8. Man, God bless elementary teachers. The energy is boundless. All right, how we doing, Matt?
We're doing real well. I don't see anything in the chat or the Q&A, so
That's fine.
give yourself a breath, and there you go.
That's good. I'm
Whenever
actually
you're ready.
halfway through the stuff. So we talked about portfolios and reflection. If you see me like looking down, it's because I have my notes on me here. Portfolios and reflection. We talked about graphic design tools. The next thing I want to talk about with using tech in the art room would be considering sketchnoting and taking sketchnoting digital. So I actually taught this to a group of 8th graders. And what we did was we started analog. We started with, sketchnote on a sheet of paper, drawing stuff out. Yay. You got now what Matt's pulling up here is I did a whole presentation on drawing using the Apple Pencil and Procreate and the iPad. So if you have boundless amounts of money and you can buy each student an iPad and the Procreate app and an Apple Pencil, that is hands down my favorite way to draw. That is how I draw. I've done I actually illustrated 2 children's books, and my drawings were all done on the iPad with Procreate and then my Apple Pencil. So that would be like the highest, like, yay, if you can do that, oh, it's awesome. Even if just you as an art teacher, if you haven't tried it, do it because it's amazing. So this is my session from IdeaCon, where I kind of go through the basics. So if you're a beginner and you're looking to get started, this is a great resource you can go to. If you're like, I've always been meaning to try it out, definitely. I find it very satisfying just as an artist for my own personal, PD. Do that, art teacher, yay. But when I was working with students, we did not have such luxuries as an iPad and an Apple Pencil. So there are some other things that you can do. My students all had Chromebooks. So you can start small with something like Jamboard on your Chromebook because you can draw in Jamboard. Now your options are limited, but it is something that you could start with. So I can see you're going there, Matt. Yep, more and Google Jamboard. So you can just use this if you're doing really simple sketch notes, like you just want kids to kind of like get the hang of, sketching and drawing really simple like shapes or stick figures or whatever, just to represent. The idea with sketch notes is you're drawing symbols and shapes and icons and that represent other things. So sketchnoting isn't so much about like being able to draw well as it is being able to like represent ideas and communicate through pictures, which is cool because it's like such an art thing. But also, yeah, that's lovely, Matt. But if you wanted to get a little bit fancier and you wanted more controls and more things than Jamboard and you're on a Chromebook, you can actually use Chrome Canvas. So not all teachers know about Chrome Canvas. I taught this to my son the other day. If you have touchscreen Chromebooks, this is so nice. If you don't have touchscreen Chromebooks, you can still use it. What's going on with that? Yeah, I don't know why your thing's not working there. Chrome Canvas is a drawing. Yeah, it's there. There we go. That's why. It is a drawing interface, part of Google Workspace, and you do have a little bit more options in your tools than you do like in just Jamboard. So rather than just drawing with like 4 colors and 3, yeah, you can actually adjust the width of your lines. You can change the colors. You can change the type of pen. So here you have kind of like an ink pen. You can switch to a pencil. It has like more of a color pencil, kind of a shading thing going on. My students used Chrome Canvas to do sketch notes, believe it or not. Now we had touchscreen Chromebooks, so that's one thing that helped us quite a bit. And we used a stylus on our touchscreen Chromebooks, so it was the closest we could get to recreating kind of the iPad Apple Pencil experience. Although I don't think anything comes close to that, but we were able to do that What's nice about Chrome Canvas is that it works in layers, believe it or not. So actually, Matt, in the upper right-hand corner of your screen, there's actually a little menu that allows you to, you can add layers to things. And what's nice about that is I tend to draw with a layer of sketching, a layer of outlines, and a layer of like coloring in or filling in. So that's kind of a neat introduction to students at a very base level of how a lot of these illustration, softwares kind of work, because they do work in layers. And understanding how that works and how to separate out your layers is a really important skill. So it is like a baby step that can be scaffolded and then like kind of worked up as you get into more complex tools. So I'm going to back up and like, let's have a little tech philosophy conversation for a moment here. So I taught art, then I taught tech, then I taught library, media, makerspace. So I've taught lots of things. But when I got into teaching technology, and I always kind of had that art bent because I am an art teacher at heart, you can teach students a tool, but sometimes in 6 months, sometimes in a year, sometimes in a couple of years, that tool has changed and it has evolved. So spending all your time learning like one tool isn't really useful, because as soon as you go somewhere else and a different tool is being used, they go from Mac to Windows, or they go from Safari to Chrome, and they go to, from Adobe to Google's, whatever. It's important to learn like the basic functions of a tool, so that when there is an update, or so when the tool changes, you have the confidence to adapt to that and to change that. So I spent a lot of time talking to my students about that. And the reason why I bring this up is because you learn something like Chrome Canvas. Most artists, I don't think I know any artists, and I'm probably wrong, there's probably somebody online that makes incredible artworks using Chrome Canvas. But it is not the tool of choice for most working artists. But it does give you those basic features. Students are still learning, there's a pencil tool, there's a pen tool, you can change the color, you can change the thickness, it has layers, you can move. It still has those basic features, so that when they do get to a fancier tool, they still have similar functions. So it's the idea that you can kind of translate those skills from one tool into the next that I think is more important in tech than like, I'm an expert at this one tool. Because you give somebody else, they're going to be like, I don't know what to do. So the fact that you can navigate and be like, okay, there's layers in this one, there's layers in that one. I go here, there's the, it's kind of having that flexibility and that confidence with the tool. I think that's really important. So soapbox down. So the other site that's pretty cool, another tool you can use, is actually from Autodesk. So Autodesk has a sketchbook. This might be an app that you have to install. Yeah. So Sketchbook is, I think it might be a Google Play app. So if you're on a Chromebook, you install it via Google Play. Yeah, Sketchbook on mobile device. Oh, there is Sketchbook Pro for the desktop. We don't download on desktop because we were using Chromebooks. So we were using the app from the Google Play Store. Sketchbook, Autodesk Sketchbook is sort of like Chrome Canvas, but a step up. It is the closest thing I have found to Procreate on an iPad on a Chromebook. It still falls short, but if you're trying to get it as close as you possibly can, Sketchbook is what I would recommend. And I would challenge anyone who finds something better, please share it with me. Please let me know, because I'd love to know about it. So yeah, so Sketchbook with a stylus, if you have a touch screen, pretty cool. This is available. There is an app for iOS too. So if you did want to try this on an iPad, you could do that too. But if you have an iPad, use Procreate. So yeah, so those are my 3 things for sketchnoting. Oh, another thing that I did do with my students, this is not on our notes here, but as we're talking, I'm thinking about it. I tried to get my students to transfer like that analog to digital world. So another thing we would do is sometimes they would draw on paper, and then we would photograph our drawing and put it into like a slide deck. So we would create like a digital version of our notes and make like a digital, almost like a digital notebook where each slide was a different page, to kind of document and collect all of our what would you call that? Like your sketchnoting library, your sketchnoting catalog of like symbols and simple like pictures and images for things. So the way we would teach it, I apologize, I feel like I'm getting very scattered here. The way I would teach it is we would do an activity where it's like, okay, today we're going to do sketch notes of animals, and students would fill a page with like little sketches and doodles of animals, with the goal not being realism, but how can you, a pig, a cow, a dog, a fox, how would you show those things like kind of in the simplest form ever, like kind of represent that. Then we would do a day where we would be like, okay, today's theme is transportation. So you draw as many like transportation things as you can. So we would kind of create these like collections or like libraries of symbols. And we would talk about the different ways you could do it. You could create it on, Sketchbook. You could create it in Chrome Canvas. You could create it, on your iPad. You could draw it in Jamboard. You could draw it on paper and take a picture of it and put it in. So sometimes it was just about getting students used to the different tools and then letting them choose which one worked best for them. So that's an option too. It depends on your level of comfort as a teacher. If you're like, I don't want to throw all that at them, it's up to you. But I kind of bring those up so that as the art teacher, you can kind of experiment and try those things for yourself, because your students the best. You know what they can handle and what they can't and what might be cool, even to present as like an enrichment, because we all have the art kids, we all have the art students. So everybody else might be working on something, but your art kid finishes earlier, says, hey, do you know about this? And it's something that you could use to kind of scaffold and enrichment or enhance the curriculum as well. So when I present, I like to throw a lot of things at people, and I'm like, pick and choose what works for you, and kind of collect and reject the things that don't. So sketchnoting, besides taking a picture of things to save it digitally that way, I also used to use Rocketbook pages. So again, Matt, I'm throwing something at you that wasn't in my notes here, but Rocketbook are the notebooks that you can buy, that you use the app and it will scan. It'll turn your, handwriting or your drawings or whatever into a scanned image. Yeah. Thank you. So that's Rocketbook, which is actually a notebook that you can buy, but Rocketbook has free printable pages that you can use. So that's kind of nifty if you're like a techie person. This is kind of cool. I know. I don't know if they're on the website anymore, like searchable, but it does still exist. So I can always find them.
I know they're in the app, but I don't know how to get them on the website.
Okay. I'll find them and I'll get it for you to put in our notes. But the printable Rocketbook pages were amazing because free. And I would print one out and I would photocopy and I would give each student one of the pages so they could do their drawings on the page. And then we would use the app to like scan it and everybody would get like a scanned copy of their drawings. So that was just kind of just a fun bridging the gap between analog and digital. If you're the kind of person like me that just likes to introduce students to a lot of different options and choices and things that you can do. Yeah, we'll find the link. Free Rocketbook pages. It's opening up my notes again. I do own some actual Rocketbooks too, so these are pretty cool as a teacher that you can use because most people use it for notes like handwriting notes, but Rocketbook you can actually, if you're a doodler and a sketchnoter and you draw on your note, you can actually digitize your analog notes with your Rocketbook too. So it's fun. I like it. I base all my decisions on what's fun. Okay, so my last section that I want to talk about. So I divided today's conversation into 4 parts. We had our portfolios and our reflection, graphic design tools, sketchnoting, and the last thing I want to talk about is multimedia and video. So video is probably one of my favorite. Just over time, I've learned that it's one of the things I love to do. I am not the Steven Spielberg level blockbuster creator. I am more of I like to create videos that are goofy, again, because they're fun. To me, the quality is not as important as the content. I have fun doing it. And I like to do different things. My multimedia and video tool of choice is WeVideo. I've done presentations for them. I do not make any commission, get paid by them. I wish I did. But WeVideo is basically, if you've used iMovie, if you've used Windows Movie Maker, if you've used Adobe Premiere, WeVideo is essentially, like I said, a lot of the tools are the same. They just have their own, functions and where things are located. But WeVideo is in the cloud. So you can use it on a Chromebook. You can use it on your Windows device. You can go use it on your Mac. You can use it at home. Heck, I made a whole video for my kids' hospital room one year. He's okay. This was just a few years ago. He was in the hospital overnight, and I made a video for my kids right from there in my Chromebook. So I'm just illustrating how great it is, outside of whether or not we should feel the pressure to do that as teachers. It's so convenient. If you're working with iMovie, which I love iMovie, I love my Mac, I got my iPads, all those things, you are tied to that device. So you're working in iMovie, all of the content from it is on that device, lives on that device. In WeVideo, because everything's uploaded into the cloud, anywhere you log into WeVideo, you can access your projects, you can work on your projects. You can share a project with another person. They actually have the ability to do collaborative videos where you can both be working on a video at the same time, like a Google Doc. That's fairly new, like maybe within the last year or so. Didn't always exist, but it's amazing. WeVideo, and this is for the full paid for schools version, has a, what is it called now? It's a stock media library with video clips, audio clips, sound effects, music, static titles, moving titles, seasonal titles, still images and video clips that are ready for green screen. There is so much that you can search through that you don't actually have to film anything yourself. You don't have to have a fancy camera. You can create whole videos just from their stock footage. So that's kind of how I start with kids when I'm introducing WeVideo, is I will show them how to go in, search for like an animal, like we'll search for bunnies, we'll search for puppies, and we drag it into our timeline. And then we say, hey, you know what, this could use some music behind it. So we'll search for music based on usually like mood, and we'll say like funny, or we'll say happy or relaxing or calm, and we'll search, and then we'll preview some music, and then we'll drag the music down in. And then we'll say, you know what, let's put a title in front of this. So we'll go to the text, and we'll add that in. So we talk about just creating a video with like a video clip, a title with some music underneath it. And then you can certainly build from there. You can record and upload your own footage. You can edit, you can fade in, fade out. You can, zoom in, you can Ken Burns it, you can do all of those things, but there's so much that it's really good, I think, to just start small like that. Like, let's just do a title, a picture, what if you brought students in an image of their artwork that they made? They set it to music, they use a title to, meaning a title screen, to give the artwork title and their name, something. So it start really small, and then you can build up to things like, here is a video of me talking about my artwork, and doing a narration over it. Or you get really fancy, because I love green screen, a still image of the student's artwork, like envision with me, still image of the student's artwork with the student superimposed in front of it, like a weatherman, pointing to and talking about their artwork, and creating a video of that. I think that would be amazing. I want to see that. Whoever does that, send me a link. That would be great. I do have a lot of resources for WeVideo. I have several videos on my YouTube channel. Like and subscribe. There's resources there. I do have a website with all of my green screen tricks. And again, Matt, I didn't give you the link. I apologize. But I can give you that to add in there as well. So WeVideo has a lot of possibilities. It's probably the most full-bodied tool. It is a paid tool, so you do have to get your district to buy into it, or you have to get your PTA to buy you 30 seats or whatever. And it's a yearly subscription. So let's talk about free tools then, because WeVideo is great, but Jen, I can't afford this, and there's no way my district's going to buy it for me. That's cool. Let's come up with some other options. My next favorite tool would probably be Screencastify. So Screencastify is for creating screencasts or screen recordings, but you can use it for video as well. Yeah, so screencastify.com, it's actually just a Chrome extension that you add. So like where it says add to Chrome in the big blue button, you just click it and you add it to Chrome as your extension. Once it's there, you will, usually there's like a little setup thing that you kind of go through and you follow all the prompts and everything. Yeah. How do you not have Screencastify, Matt? Come on. This is where I'm going to razz you. When you have it installed, all you have to do is click on the extension to activate it or to record. But what's cool is you can record your screen. You can also record your webcam. So you could, if you wanted to record, vlog style videos or things like that, you can use Screencastify as the video recorder of your camera to record yourself. Yeah, see, once you first install it, it's going to make you go through all of these like little onboardy things and like allow your camera. There you go. See? Look how fancy. You guys can probably see and hear the school buses behind me. I apologize. Apparently after school clubs are letting out right now. Now, Screencastify is free. You get a 5-minute limit per video. So you can actually see that up in the corner there, Matt, on your account. You can upgrade. Usually that's, I don't even know what the prices are for it, but 5 minutes is, if you're making videos longer than 5 minutes, there's kind of an issue. So 5-minute video is great or less for instruction, for doing like sub plans. See, you do have Screencastify. You just weren't like logged in or something, because look at all those videos you made. 5 minutes is, I think, a great time frame. I think a lot of teachers can use it. The free version, don't need to worry about any paid version at all. Now, what I love, pardon me, I have to move, my foot's falling asleep. What I love about Screencastify is not so much that you can save things as a video, but that you can export things as a GIF. That is amazing, because in art class, say you have a 3-dimensional, sculpture where just a still image won't do, you can actually kind of show it in other dimensions through a moving, picture. Or I did a project with my 8th graders. We did out of cardboard, we did automatons, like with the crank, and then their little sculptural pieces like moved. So we actually turned those, we recorded them with Screencastify and turned them into animated GIFs that then showed their sculpture in motion, like actually performing and doing the thing that it was supposed to do. So Screencastify is a great way to document your artwork. Or you can even have students, yes, the export GIF function, Matt's showing it there on our on the screen. If you had students create, let's say, stop motion animation using Google Slides, you could then use the screencast recording to export it as a GIF, a stop motion as a GIF. That could then be easily embedded into a website or a slide deck when we go back to digital portfolios. So you can see I'm kind of like, now we're taking all these things and we're kind of putting them together. So Screencastify is a great free way to create, video clips and GIFs and animations for your projects without getting into like a full-on video editor like WeVideo. The other tool I wanted to bring up, sorry, I'm pulling up my notes again here. So multimedia and video. I did not mention Flipgrid, but that's a great way to record video as well. I find most teachers know about that, but that's another option you could do. But I wanted to talk about, oh, we're gonna pull it up, okay. Flipgrid. Flipgrid is great for like recording and sharing videos, but you can download anything that you do in Flipgrid. So what's cool about that is that if you have students record videos, you can download their things. So you can still use it as a way to create content. Yeah, see, there we go. Even though it's not intended as, it's more of a video sharing platform, you can still use it to create by, making something and then like downloading what you created from it. So you can kind of like hack some of these tools for those purposes. Last thing I did want to show you was Unscreen. So I think this one you probably know, Matt, but unscreen.com, I think, yeah, is a way that you can remove video backgrounds. So this is cool for creating reaction GIFs. So that's one of my favorite things. Students love like creating memes and things like that. You can use Unscreen with like a simple video that you take even just with your phone. You don't have to be against a green screen, hence it says goodbye green screen. Taking short videos of yourself doing things like, giving the thumbs up, waving hello, going, I don't know, or like, I'm thinking really hard, or like, I don't like that, or taking short videos of yourself with those like reactions and then bringing them into Unscreen. Again, this is a free tool, so it says 100% automatically and free. You are limited to, I think it's 5 seconds for free. So you don't get a long time. But yay, sample videos. But if you're just creating small GIFs, and when I say like reaction videos, those are great because you can like overlay these GIFs, these transparent background GIFs onto a slide or into a video, like as an overlay on something. And it's just another way to add more creativity into a project. So sometimes, you know, you even just as a teacher, not everything has to be a project that you do with the kids. Just as a teacher, you're creating your art presentations for a project or something. And you want to, you know, anytime you can do something, I don't know, weird or novel, or it helps make the information stick. So if you have little gifs of yourself, these like reacting to something, you have this little gift that's like, remember, you know, and you put that on your slide because you're presenting like a project, you know, and you've got like tips and advice or something for a project, and there's a little picture of you in the corner going like this, like kids are more likely to like remember those things. So I know it sounds so stupid when I say it, but little things like that create like those lasting impressions with your kids, and in a way kind of help to form those relationships. And sometimes too, like kids know like you're willing to look goofy or you're willing to like kind of put yourself out there. One of the issues with video and like multimedia tools is that a lot of teachers I talk to are like, well, I don't want to be on camera, well, I don't want to do this, but you ask your students to do those same things that like you yourself aren't comfortable with. And when you think about it, you're like, oh yeah, I'm asking my students to, you know, draw a self-portrait or take a picture, and I myself am not comfortable with that. I don't like to take my picture. I don't want to be on video, or I don't want to be like, there's a certain amount of like, you have to get over that and like be willing to look goofy or look silly. I always say like the students already think I'm a huge nerd, doesn't make a difference, you know, so like, so what? Getting yourself comfortable with the tools and getting yourself used to using these things. And then it's not as bad when you ask students to do it, because you can say, hey, you know, I remember it was uncomfortable for me too. It took me, you know, 3 or 4 times to get it. And you're also just like modeling the behaviors that you want to see too. So I think that kind of crosses all tech things. It's okay to teach something to the class without fully knowing how to use everything. So if you're like, I'm intimidated about using WeVideo or using this, I always would bring stuff up to the students and I would say, you know what, we're going to try this new thing. I don't know if it's going to work out. Could be a hot mess. Even if it is, we learn what doesn't work. And I just kind of try to model that in front of them. Have I taught things that are huge failures? Yeah, sometimes. Have I taught things that turned out really well? Yeah, that too, you know. And if you don't know how to do something and you're, you know, using Screencastify and you're like, I can't figure out how to zoom this thing, ask a student. Somebody in that room is going to be like, oh, I figured it out. If they don't know it, they're going to become like motivated to figure it out. And they're going to tell you, and they're going to be really excited to tell you, to show you that like they're the expert or they know something that the teacher doesn't know. And it's like, this is a good thing. We want to be this community where we're like all learners, and it's not just like you're the expert and nobody else is. So it just creates a sense of community. And once again, I'm getting off on a tangent, but I could do that all day. Matt, how are we doing?
I think we're doing great, Jen. Folks, if we have any questions at all, please feel free to drop those into the chat or the Q&A at any time. I will put a link to Jen's handout with clickable links in the chat right now.
Thank you, Matt. I know, because I like throw all this stuff out there and then I'm like, wah.
Oh, you're good.
And then I run away.
So if you're driving, don't click on anything in the chat right now, but remember bit.ly/arts419 LTC, all lowercase.
Oh,
Arts 419 LTC.
That's so good. Okay. All right. So do we want to just recap here and then going?
Sure. Do you have anything else you'd like to share?
I mean, that's basically the overview. I had the 4 areas there. So we did portfolios and reflection, graphic design tools, Sketchnotes, and then multimedia and video. The only other thing I guess I like to talk about is just that because I throw so much stuff out here, I feel like I word vomit. Like I throw a grenade and then I like run away, like, is that people can always feel free to reach out to me and ask questions. It's never a problem. I like to help. I mean, that's my job this year. I help other teachers. Try never to I try not to make anyone ever feel like stupid or silly. Like my job is to help build your confidence and make you feel better. So never hesitate to reach out or ask for help. I will not shame you. I will help.
Okay, well, Jen, thank you very much for helping out and sharing your wisdom with us today. And you've given us some great tools and some great techniques that we can use in just about any classroom. So thank you very much. I put your contact information in the handout. And I'd like to remind everyone that this recording will be posted on the LTC's YouTube channel within 24 to 48 hours. And emails with links to evaluation forms will be sent to our live attendees during that same time frame. So thanks to everyone who came out today. Jen, thank you for everything. And I think we can draw this to a close. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, Matt.